So welcome back to our latest series of e-commerce agency wisdom. And today we're going to talk about what I wish I knew about growing too quickly. Claire, who we've known each other for years now, 5 or 6, maybe more years, I'm not sure. Claire was actually, or Squatch Pickle, one of my first agencies I ever worked with. And Claire actually joined us for my EU Agency Summit in Valencia last year on our panel where we talked about all of the mistakes we've made. And I know that one of the ones you talked about was hiring too many people and growing too quickly. So big learning lesson. And obviously this series is about imparting wisdom for other agencies based on the trauma and the mistakes that we've already made. So maybe you want to do like a bit of an intro and share what you wish you knew.
Yeah, so we run Squash Pixel. We're 16 this year, so we have been through it over the last 16 years. I think there's not many mistakes we haven't made, but hopefully learning from them. So yeah, it's myself and my husband. We were quite a small company. We managed to grow, which is what I wanted to touch on. So 2 years ago, we had a massive growth spurt. We went up to 26 staff within 18 months. Well, it was closer to 12 months, really. It was off the back of large retainers and larger projects. I think at that time, people were just spending more. You could just put the prices up and people were just saying yes. We hired as a response, and we are now feeling the hangover from that because it just took a couple of key big retainers to decide they wanted to cut their budget, which I think is a common trend for a lot of people over the last 18 months. And then also a couple of really large clients to get bought out, decide they want to move platform and no longer need us. It crucified the cash flow of the business. So we were in a position where we had to dramatically cut our operational costs and quickly, which is what we felt the effect of last year. But I just wish we got so caught up on growing and the thought of to be a successful agency. I mean, we've been doing it well over 10 years at that point, and we'd never really grown the physical team. And we just thought, sod it, let's do it without considering actually, is every single hire that we're about to do really needed in the business? At that point, we had the money to pay for them at that moment, and that's the critical point. But what we didn't do is look at the efficiencies of each individual member of the team. And in hindsight, which is what we've done now, we wouldn't have hired half the people that we did at the time. We would have been able to run much more efficiently and at a far lower cost, which would have saved the heartache and heartbreak of having to reduce that team so dramatically. Things like, looking at actual resource capacity management. You think we've been around long enough, we've been doing this, but everyone kind of wings it. And I think we just got away with because we'd been such a small team. When you grow to that size, suddenly the systems you have in place and the tools you have in place aren't sufficient to monitor and manage what you're trying to achieve if you're going to maintain at that size. It's not something I would ever do again. I thought I had these grand plans of being this huge, 100+ agency, take over the world. We dipped our toe in that life 18 months ago, and I have learned a lesson. It's not for us, which was a massive lesson for me as well. It made me and Tom, who I co-own and run the business with, actually look at what we want as an agency and focusing on those individual core team members and getting the absolute most and top quality out of those team members is our 100% focus at the moment, and readdressing what we want to achieve. So I guess for anyone out there who may be a newer agency, has those dreams and aspirations of being the big guns in the industry, absolutely reach for the stars if that's what you want to do, but do it with your eyes open. And I would say start, even if it's you and one other co-founder, even if it's just you, track and monitor how efficient everybody in the business is from day one. We thought we could get away with it because I know how hard I'm working. I know how hard Tom's working and the other developer or whoever you've got. But actually looking at the detail of it, I wish we'd got that in place to begin with, because when we hit that growth, we would have had those tools in place to have made an informed decision. Or we were convinced all the decisions we made were the right ones for us at the time with the information we had. We were just lacking a lot of information at that time. So looking at resource capacity planning tools and things like that, which are great. I know, Rachel, you have quite a few people who are helping us actually now, reaching out and asking for help if you're not sure is something we never did either. I know Rachel's kind of told us off over the years since working with us. You're not alone, and ask the questions. You don't have all the answers yourself if you're just doing this for the first time. And then you can grow when you're ready to grow and it's sustainable. Our growth was not sustainable. We had no idea what was coming. Had we known, we would have made different choices, but that information wasn't there. And I think we would have made more cautious decisions around the growth of the agency. So yeah, it's a big one there.
Sore lesson. And I think as well, a lot of this growth is a lot of vanity metrics when it comes to growing an agency. When people all this like chest beating that you see online and people talking and glorifying, it's tough. And I would always say, keep your growth. If you really want to grow an agency sustainably, keep it between 20 and 30% year on year. When the agencies that are going 30 to 50% or over 50%, buckle up. It is going to be a roller coaster, and you're going to have so much shit thrown at you that you don't anticipate, and it's going to test mind, body, soul. I always say to people, running an agency will set you up for whatever it is that you want to do in life, because running an agency, it will find your weakness, and it's just like a wound. The finger will be in the wound, and it will keep pushing and pushing until it either makes you or breaks you. That is running an agency.
It is true. And if I could help anyone avoid the mental, impact of having to deal with the mistakes I made, and you've got to be able to own your mistakes as well as an agency owner. If you don't, you are destined to fail. You've got to own them, accept them and learn from them, and then move on and not do the same again. But it is, when it comes to the resourcing side of things, it is always the hardest part in every business, but having to make those tough decisions. If someone can avoid that, I would wish that for everybody.
Yeah, I know it was traumatic for you. That was a tough experience. But at the end of the day, you learn from the mistakes, and it's not a bad thing to have ambition. But if your ambition is reactive, it's very dangerous, because when you're reactive, you're on the back foot and you can't see what's coming ahead of you. So either you bring in people who have that visibility and have done that before, or you park your ambition and you're more measured with it, and you be proactive and say, okay, I've got all these goals and ambitious ideas and whatever it is that I want to do, but let me park that for right now and look at what I have in front of me, and then plan it ahead. So at least then I can marry up my ambition and my goals with what's actually happening, rather than what I think, my hopes and dreams and my expectations.
And I think you get caught up in, you lose yourself as well if you're being that reactive to that fast-paced growth. It feels great when all the money's coming in and all the rest of it, and you think you've made it. This is it. We're on a roll here. But you do lose yourself. And I think I've mentioned this previously. Being true to who you are is so important, and then having the systems in place to make sure you stay on track with that. So, looking at, certainly forecasting, cash flow forecasting, it's so easy to just not worry about that from the beginning. You're just happy to take whatever work you can get. You don't care what clients you're working with. You'll just take it all. And, you need to, niche down. I know you talk about that. And when you're in that full-blown growth, you forget about that. And you're suddenly like, whoa, this person wants to throw this money at us. Let's just do it, even if they're not our ideal persona or it's our niche. You just take it, and you almost revert back to being a startup again in that attitude. And I would say always revert back and remember what you want to achieve as an agency and where you want to be in this industry, and make sure every decision you're making reaffirms that choice. Because we're coming out of the back of it. We will carry on. We always will. We're 16 this year. had a tough, 18 months, but, we'll get back up there. But we'll get back up there as the company we originally wanted to be, which is so important. So, yeah, people who may be a smaller team, don't think it's a waste of time because there's only a few of you to be looking at your cash flow and getting those, even if it's a simple spreadsheet to begin with, something, just make sure your mindset is in that place, because as you expand and grow and the business grows, you can just utilize those tools and expand them out and make sure you stay on track.
Yeah, it's holding yourself accountable to actual numbers as opposed to ambitions.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, I think the realization for me, I think we got caught up in, you think to be a success, whatever anyone thinks that is you need lots of people. That a big company, that means success. It's not actually. It's the numbers on the spreadsheet that mean success. And there are plenty of very small agencies who are absolutely smashing it out there, and businesses who don't have, 30, 40 people. They're a small team, but they've got the critical people doing the best job in those teams. And that's what counts, I think.